Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio.
Wisconsin natives that did so great on the Bassmaster Classic.
There's the what's wrong with the ban on wolf hunting.
You start watching decoys just like fly over the hill. Like I've never seen.
I fish, I hunt, and always will. Broadcasting from the Eckhardt Outdoors studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore. This is Sporting Journal Radio. That's right. Welcome to the show. I'm Bret Amundson. We're here to talk about the latest in the outdoors in Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, and beyond. From working to continue to fish for sturgeon to finding the best way to keep our hunting and fishing sustainable for generations to come and fighting for your rights as a hunter and angler. We're going to talk about predator management on this show, too, after that fatal mountain lion attack in California. That's Dan Amundson over there. What's up, Dan?
Hey.
David, I almost called you David Amundson over there. You're part of the family now, David.
That's weird.
Not only part of the show, you're now part of the family. You didn't see that in the fine print, did you?
No,
I
missed that in the contract.
You got a contract?
Eckhardt.
Are you employed?
Verbal.
You get paid?
It was a verbal contract.
Verbal, yes, very verbal over a case of Busch Light, I think. So that's binding, I think.
Yep. All
right. We also have Aaron Ambur, the president of Nexus Outdoors, is going to be joining us on the show. We're going to talk about whitewater gear. We'll talk about scent lock, blocker outdoors, hardcore decoys, and more. That'll be coming up later in the show. Joe Henry's going to join us. We're going to talk about the Rainy River and what conditions are like up there. We'll talk about muskies in Minnesota, touch on Red Lake and Mille Lacs. We'll also talk about what to do if you're approached by a mountain lion. According to the National Park Service, this is just some interesting stuff there. And then we're going to tell you about a video that's tough to watch for those of us that own hunting dogs. But first, Dan, who are the sponsors this week on the show?
Invergrove Toyota. When looking for your new rig, head over to Invergrove Toyota. They're the official truck sponsor of Fish Hunt Forever. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. You can fish out of a snowbear, but now you're going to be looking for a summer trip to Devil's Lake. Learn more at haybellheights.com. OnX Hunt, landowner information, public land access, and much, much more. Know where you stand with OnX. Prairie Sportsman, the new season is back underway. Watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. And Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan a trip for ice fishing still, the Rainy River maybe, or a summer trip at lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Very good. I'm very excited about getting back up to the Rainy River, and we're going to talk more about Lake of the Woods and ice fishing. We all thought ice fishing might be over by now, but just kidding. It's still March in Minnesota, and that means winter snowstorms and a lot. I didn't realize it was going to stay as cold as it was for as long as it's going to. And not that it's going to be bad. I mean, we're talking still 30s and 40s for highs, which is probably still about average for this time of year, really. But some overnight lows. We've had some single digits here. It was still a little bit cold after the storm. Anybody know how much snow we actually got in that storm?
No. I figured 6 to 8 maybe at my place.
I don't think we were in the direct path, but I know they were at one point they were talking about 25 inches for us here in western Minnesota. We definitely didn't get that.
No.
But we got some heavy wet snow, which I know Dan, we talked about, making sure the generator was ready because we were worried about maybe with the heavy wet snow and the winds, maybe some power lines going down. Thankfully, we didn't have that. I didn't hear about any problems anywhere. Anyway, definitely got cooled off a little bit, and some things froze up in some areas, some of the small sloughs. I think we had a reverse migration for a lot of waterfowl, and not surprised by it. We've had it pretty good this winter. Not going to complain about it too much, but I was hoping for some nice 60-degree days up at the Rainy River for the SJR 500, which is coming up here in not too far away, April 9th and 10th. And right now we're actually looking at the forecast. They're talking about low 40s for the highs on the April 9th and 10th. That could change between now and then, of course. It's still a little ways out. So looking forward to that. It's a Fish Donkey 2-day tournament. Find out all the info at sportingjournalradio.com. Look on the Fish Donkey app for the SJR 500. You can win some cash. You can win some cool prizes. We'll be giving away a bunch of stuff. We have a good party at Riverbend Resort while we're up there. And we record this show live in the bar, so you can come join us and be a part of our live studio audience. Ladies and gentlemen, April 9th and 10th at Riverbend Resort at Lake of the Woods. All the details at sportingjournalradio.com. And they've got a lodging special going on up at Riverbend too. So give them a call And I think they're doing like $50 a night per person. So call them and they'll have more details for you. Tell them you're coming up for the Sporting Journal Radio Tournament, SJR 500. And now, ladies and gentlemen, some headlines. That's right. So here's what's going on around Minnesota to start with. Anyway, we still don't know a whole lot about the Red Lake situation, but the last thing I heard is that they want the lake, the whole upper Red Lake back, some of the land, but they're saying that it won't affect you still, like non-tribal members still being able to use the lake. We'll see where all this shakes out. This is going to be discussed, I think, for quite a while coming up yet. Also, Minfish has sent a letter to DNR Commissioner Sarah Stroman. While Minfish has a goal of a healthy and long-term sustainable fishery on Mille Lacs Lake with the Minnesota DNR, we cannot forget Minnesota anglers' rights to access their public waters for the opportunity to harvest fish. It is for these reasons we respectfully ask the Minnesota DNR to re-examine the fisheries data and methodology used by the DNR when making the 2024 harvest decisions for Mille Lacs and share the findings with a more comprehensive report for state anglers before the Minnesota fishing opener on May 11th. That came from Dave Osborne, the Minfish president. There was more to that letter, too. I just kind of hit the main spot about Mille Lacs, but essentially Minfish has asked the DNR to say, like, wait a minute, how are you really coming to the conclusion that it has to be catch and release only? Now, and I want to make one thing clear, and I think we're all in agreement here that we don't mind catch and release. You know, in certain situations, catch and release is very good for a fishery. Now, if walleye fishing is unreal at Mille Lacs and it's a catch and release opportunity and you can catch some giants, you can have some huge days, sure, that's great. That's a lot of fun. I'm not going to tell anybody not to go there for that. And I'm not saying that you need to have the ability to keep one fish, but the principle of the idea that the lake is as healthy as it seems to be, yet it's only catch and release. Like, something is not adding up there to me. Something is not making sense, and that's why I have the issue with it. I know we put this out last week, and everyone's like, oh, go somewhere else then. Oh, catch and release. If you go, catch and release is good. Catch and release is great, unless it's deep water, of course. We all know that situation with barotrauma, but there's something is weird. Something is fishy about this right now.
Anyway. I don't know what you mean, but it had the cadence of a joke.
I think we can thank Jeremy Smith for this one, too. The Minnesota DNR is seeking input on a muskie plan. For the plan update, the Minnesota DNR hopes to hear from anglers who fish for muskies, other anglers, lake user groups, partners in tribal nations, and anyone interested in muskies. People can share input in an online scoping survey on the Minnesota DNR Muskie webpage. A webinar about the update process is planned for fall of 24, and in the winter of 24-25, the public will be able to review and provide input on a draft plan. Some Montana news. David brought this one to me. We saw a couple of new things. A new Montana law now in place allows a non-resident Montana hunter who possesses one preference point for 2024 can now buy a second preference point up until December 31st. Is that, you hunt Montana, David? Is that something?
No, I don't.
Sounds like it's something new.
Yeah, it was just something I saw that got forwarded to me.
Well, and this gives the applicant 2 preference points going into the 2025 drawing. And then what you were talking about is that if you are applying for a non-resident license in Montana and do not apply in consecutive years, you will lose accumulated preference points. So any accumulated preference point is lost if the applicant does not apply for a non-resident combination license in consecutive years, or if you are successful at obtaining a combination license. So some changes anyway, if you hunt Montana, some changes in the way they work their preference points. All right, coming up, we got Aaron Ambur from Nexus Outdoors. We got Joe Henry with the Lake of the Woods and Rainy River update. We're going to talk about some mountain lion tips. You could encounter one here in Minnesota or the Dakotas, of course, even in Wisconsin. It's possible. So we'll get into all of that here in just a little bit. Don't forget, another new episode of Prairie Sportsman coming Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. on Pioneer PBS. We go with the Minnesota DNR to learn about barotrauma. It's the episode we've all been waiting for a long time. So Sunday night, you'll also be able to see that on the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel and some AIS stuff as well on that new episode of Prairie Sportsman. Search your guide for a listing near you on a PBS station near you. 852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for watching or listening wherever you are. David Eckhardt, Dan Amundson with us as well. Some sad news coming out of California. Mountain lion attacked two young kids that were out there searching for sheds. Talon Brooks, age 21, and his younger brother, 18-year-old Wyatt Brooks. They were out shed hunting in Northern California. These are guys that hunt and fish. They go out there all the time looking for stuff. Probably normally carry a gun with them when they do this, but since turkey season was about to start, they didn't want any confusion. They didn't want anybody to think they were out there trying to kill a turkey when they weren't supposed to, so they didn't bring a gun. According to the Sacramento Bee, the pair were walking down a rural road when the mountain lion attacked Wyatt, immediately going straight to his face. 18-year-old and the lion wrestled on the ground when Talon punched the big cat and yelled, getting its attention. It then switched and attacked Talon, took him down while Wyatt yelled at him and tried to punch the mountain lion. Although it kept its grip tight on Talon and wouldn't let him go, so then Wyatt then went for help. Game wardens arrived, shot in the air to scare the big cat off, but it was too late for Talon. The wardens later found the cat and killed it. It weighed 90 pounds, according to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, where male mountain lions weigh from 85 to 170 pounds. Females weigh 50 to 110 pounds, which is crazy. You know, you look at even just house cats, they're like ninjas. Could you imagine, like, one that weighed 150 pounds coming at you like that?
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah. I've hunted in mountain lion country before. I've never seen one. I've seen tracks. I remember one time I was snow goose hunting in North Dakota, and I was in the kind of east central part of the state. You know, not really mountain lion country, but obviously they travel through there. Probably young males like this one, trying to getting kicked out of its territory, trying to find some place to go. And they had just seen a mountain lion in this area where I was snow goose hunting, and I was out there by myself one time. And I was laying in this field, and I was actually on a field edge. I was tucked up against some tall grass. And I'm laying there, you know, you're down on the ground in this ground blind, and anytime I'd hear the grass rustle behind me, I was like, you know, it was freaky. Like, because I could see that being a situation where, you know, they could sneak up on you and you'd have no idea. But and then all the years that I deer hunted and pheasant hunted out in the Badlands, I was always kind of worried about seeing one out there, but never did. They generally steer clear of humans. It's not usually something you have to worry about. The last known fatal mountain lion attack in California was in 2004, so 20 years ago. And according to Wikipedia, there's been 126 mountain lion attacks in North America in the last 100 years, 27 of them which were fatal. So in the last 100 years, 27 people have died from a mountain lion attack in North America. So I did a little bit of research, guys. This is trying to help you out here in case a mountain lion is coming down towards you. You interact with one. According to the National Park Service, do not run from a mountain lion. They're going to be faster than you anyway.
Never seen me run.
Running may stimulate a mountain lion's instinct to chase. Instead, stand up and face the animal. Make eye contact with it. I would probably start yelling at it. Make a lot of noise. Try to be intimidating. If this is good advice. If you have small children with you, pick them up if possible so they don't panic and run. That would be the absolute worst if you had a small child trying to run and a mountain lion took chase after him. But this part of the advice, according to the National Park Service, your safety is the utmost importance. And we won't necessarily prosecute you for harassment of wildlife if something you throw at an aggressive mountain lion does make contact. Okay, just so you know, if you got a mountain lion attacking you and you throw something at it and hit it, the National Park Service won't prosecute you. Thanks. Thanks, National Park Service.
Wow.
They go on to explain how you can get rocks or sticks to throw. Just in case you don't know how to get a rock to throw at a mountain lion. One might ask, how do I reach stones or branches without bending down? Well, if you're in a trail cut, you could get rocks to throw from the side of the trail cut. If you're in a wooded area, you may be able to find a loose branch within reach, or feel free to break branches off trees or shrubs as necessary. Thanks. I appreciate you giving me permission to grab a branch if a mountain lion is about to maul me. Like, what, really? Like that? Did they have to tell you it's okay? We won't prosecute you if something is trying to kill you and you defend yourself? Like, where have we come as a society that this needs to be said?
It's probably one of those things where, they drill it into your head when you go to a park or the boundary waters or something, like, don't break branches, don't do this, don't harass the wildlife, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want like these 16-year-olds or whatever running and throwing rocks at mountain lions and then going, oh, it attacked me or whatever. And you know what I mean?
I get that part.
Like,
but my gosh, the fact that they have to spell it out. If a mountain lion is attacking you and you throw something at it, we won't get mad at you. Oh, thanks. Thanks. I'm still alive. Thanks. But I was worried about getting a fine for throwing a rock at a mountain lion. This gets interesting too. They don't want you to bend down, right? So if you're with others, the shorter, smaller individuals could bend down close behind the taller, bigger individuals to grab rocks and sticks and then hand them to the bigger people. So if the three of us are out there, Dan, you're our rock and stick gatherer. David and I are just going to try to look like one big animal.
I've run away by now.
Dan's gone.
Where
are those sticks?
Yeah. I know I'm faster than both of you, so
okay.
It'll eat you.
Yeah, I can trip you just as easy though, Dan.
Okay. How would you like it when I throw a rock at you?
Don't. It's against the law.
David's
parks.
A wild animal.
Yes.
David's not trying to attack you.
Well, yes, he is if he's tripping me.
Then it's okay.
No, see, I actually did some research on National Park Service PSAs. They did one about bear. See if I can find it. That's X. I don't want to go on X. Hang on.
Cool story.
Joe, pipe down.
So while you're looking for that, you found it?
Yeah.
Friends. Okay, that's funny. Friends don't use friends as bear bait.
Told you it was funny.
Well, you don't know us very well, I guess. National Park Service continues. If the mountain lion still moves in your direction, start throwing things at it. Initially, during this stage, aim for its body as accurately as you can, but avoid aiming at its head. Aiming at its head could result in the cat being blinded in one eye. So if you're being attacked by a mountain lion, we give you permission to grab rocks to throw at it, but don't aim for its face. Okay, so if you can think about that while you're being mauled.
Try not to blind it.
Try not to blind it. Oh, gosh. All right, I'm going to close with this. As predator protections increase, it's not to protect the animal as much as it is to limit our hunting and trapping, because animals are still being killed. Just like here in Minnesota, we have a hunting ban on wolves. But 200 wolves a year or so are still being killed, and only we're paying for it. So USDA pays $135,000 on average each year for problem wolves in Minnesota. That's around 110 wolves per year on average. State taxpayers are paying that. In contrast, in 2012, more than 23,000 hunters applied for 6,000 available wolf licenses. That costs $30 a piece for residents, $200 for non-residents. So if we do the math, $250 for non-residents, 6,000 licenses at $30 a piece, that's $180,000 that hunters would be paying to kill the same amount of wolves that state taxpayers are currently paying to kill the wolves. There's your math lesson. There's the what's wrong with the ban on wolf hunting in Minnesota. All right, it's time for some reels for you to watch.
Reels to watch for. The rabbit hole of reels continues. Reels to watch for.
We all waste a lot of time watching reels now, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. And David brought this one to us because David doesn't have anything better to do in his spare time.
You fish in a professional tournament, you did not use a $30 spool of line.
I actually used just Berkeley big game. No, you can get 900 yards of it for $6.
All right, he's talking my kind of budget right now.
Clear the green.
The clear. I will not use the green. I use it on a lot of the jigs, flipping, whatever.
You used a mono.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't use a lot of fluoro.
Really?
Except for all of my spinning rods will have liters of fluoro. All my bait casters are mono.
What about that?
I've never really noticed just a massive difference. I don't have a big need for fluoro.
I'm sure
Liters and
several
stuff.
people in the comments probably just fell out on the floor in their living room.
So basically, you fished an entire professional tournament using big game.
Yeah.
Fishing line industry hype exposed. It's kind of refreshing that a guy can pull out a $9 spool.
There you
He
go.
won $100,000 tournament.
That's going to buy him a whole lot of fishing
That's
line.
a lot of Berkeley big game. That's a lot of big spools of mono.
It's pretty wild. He must be a pretty good angler too.
Must be.
That's pretty good. All right, and now videos to watch.
Video of the week.
So my video of the week is a tough one, and it's if you're a dog owner, it's definitely a tough one to watch. It's the Flush Season 4, Episode 13, Dog Life Members. It's in North Dakota. Travis Frank talks about why he likes North Dakota. It's because of all the birds that are there, all the different species, waterfowl, prairie grouse, etc., pheasants, of course. That's what I loved about it when I was over there as well too. It's about dog life members of Pheasants Forever. So there's a couple of dogs in this, Travis's dog, and then Quill is mainly who I'm going to talk about this. I've waited to watch this episode because it's Renee Tamala and her dog Quill, and I knew what happened. And if you're not aware, they were hunting, they were filming this episode, and a pheasant fell over a cliff or dropped over a cliff, and Quill took off and went over that cliff. And there's a moment in that episode where they're filming Renee and she sees her dog go off a cliff, and you just see the sheer panic. You see she just drops her gun, drops her gear and takes off running. And it's hard for me to even talk about, but watching it, because you can just imagine what's going through her mind right there. And thankfully Quill is, after a long rehab and recovery, Quill is doing well. But man, just even knowing the story, to watch the episode was kind of tough. And I had a relatable, not similar moment hunting in western North Dakota, and I shot a pheasant that fell over a shorter cliff, and I watched my dog Mika go over that, and I did the same. I had the same freak out moment. And I went running up to it, and just as I got to it, she came running back up over the top with a bird in her mouth. So she was able to run down the side of it, thankfully. I don't know how she did it, but it can get dangerous out there. So, Renee, I'm glad that Quill is doing okay. Real quick, David, you had a video to watch?
Yeah, it was on exclusion cages and food plots. It was just a short clip, but it was pretty interesting on, if you plant a new food plot and you don't think anything's growing, but it could just be getting eaten, deer, turkeys, rabbits.
When you're not paying attention.
Just mowing it off right to the ground. So with that exclusion cage, you're able to see if it's actually growing good.
Where do we see that?
That is on YouTube. So
Madstone Outdoors.
Madstone Outdoors. Okay, I couldn't remember the name of it. I didn't have it pulled up.
YouTube, yeah. You just got to sift through the 7 gazillion
I just saw
videos
you
that
had
are out
it.
there.
You just had it pulled up, Dan. So I was leaning on you for that
I
one.
knew about it. All right. Thank you, David. Sort of. Aaron Ambur from Nexus Outdoors is coming up, and Joe Henry's got a Lake of the Woods report for us when we come back. It doesn't get much better than fresh perch and fresh walleye. If you're looking for an exciting winter fishing destination, come to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Haybale Heights Campground and Resort is on the ice with a fleet of snow bears, keeping you mobile and warm so you can stay on the roaming schools of fish. Haybale Heights on the east end of Devil's Lake has knowledgeable guides, comfortable cabins, and their own lake access, making your trip as successful and stress-free as possible. To book your trip, go to haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, now we're going to check in with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism to talk about the Rainy River, Lake of the Woods, and fishing. And Joe, the ice season isn't over yet, it looks like.
Well, it's funny because, a couple weeks ago, that Rainy River opened up so good and fishing was hot on that river. Still is hot. The fish are still there. But all of a sudden we get winter again, and we got skim of ice going over the Rainy River. A few hardy anglers are breaking that skim of ice on the river to get out and fish, but they can't fish the whole river because there's so much ice. still catching, but ice fishing still rolling. Who would have ever thought that our ice would hold? We're getting some single digits at night, and I'll tell you what, ice fishing has still been very, very good. But I think psychologically, a lot of people have crossed that off their list already, just because it got so warm so quick.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of times people turn their attention to pike this time of year when you talk about that ice fishing. And man, Joe, some of the northerns that have been coming up have been just giant.
Well, not only giants, but look at the number of big pike. I mean, a lot of big pike, multiple groups across the South Shore catching huge, huge pike. And, for listeners, our pike season up at Lake of the Woods is open year round because we're border water with Canada. And certainly our walleye and sauger season is open through April 14th. So that's how we can be talking about catching these fish right now. The thing about the pike is that, for ice anglers, you're using tip-ups and getting out right now, these pike don't school. But this time of year, they're getting ready to go into the spawning grounds. So it's called pre-spawn. They get congregated in these pre-spawn areas, and they also have the feed bag on. So it's just excellent, excellent tip-up fishing. And of course, what'll happen is, once the ice starts going out of the bays a little bit, those pike will slide in, and they'll go in there with ice. And they'll spawn in some cases under the ice, but they'll slide into those bays. In some cases, they have access to back ditches that might be along a county road. In some cases, they're back in the mud where the water warms up, and they're kind of by either cattails or whatever the case may be, some kind of vegetation where they can lay their eggs. And but it's coming up. It's going to be game on. And so what people will do is they'll get in those back bays and they'll go using dead bait with a quick strike rig for the lethargic big pike. Some people will cast a daredevil or slow roll a spinner bait, or maybe slow troll a crankbait through some of these bigger bays. A lot of ways to get her done, but that's all going to be approaching us here pretty darn quick.
I mean, a lot of people know about the pike fishing up there, but you think about walleyes when you think about Lake of the Woods, and you think about this big, expansive body of water with the big bowl in the bay there. But particularly on the south end, there's some big stretches of shallow water where you can target pike, isn't there?
Oh, big time. Yeah. And I mean, right now, give you an example. People are fishing them in 4 Mile Bay. People are fishing them in front of Pine Island. People are fishing them out in front of the Morris Point Gap. Some are fishing them in Bostic Bay, which is behind Morris Point there, kind of by that, by the Kenmar Keys and the Bostics and the Linders and Cyrus and Walleye Retreat and, all those resorts from that Bostic Bay area, Morris Point, obviously. So, and then, of course, Zipple Bay. Zipple Bay is its own inland lake, but they're also getting fish right now out in front of Zipple Bay on the lakeside because those fish haven't entered the bay yet. So, and then, of course, over at Arneson's, heck yeah, that whole shoreline. You got, Twin Islands. You got that whole shoreline that goes into Muskeg Bay, which is more towards the Warroad area. So, I mean, there's so much terrain there that these pike spawn. And I think that's also one of the great things about it is you have a diversity of spawning habitat. So if one area goes wrong because of a blast of cold water, whatever the case might be, killing those eggs, you got many, many other areas that are going to bring up the slack. But Brett, I mean, I don't know if you've done it or not, fishing those big pike early in the season, it is a lot of fun.
I mean, I've done it. I haven't done it at Lake of the Woods yet. And did you say red and white daredevil? I've never heard of that being good for northern pike before. Is that new?
Well, I didn't say red and white. I did say daredevil.
Okay. What did you say?
But I'm not sure if I said daredevil. I don't know if I used.
I thought you said daredevil.
Daredevil, or if I used the word spoon.
Probably gold at Lake of the Woods.
Yeah, gold spoon. Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about those pike is they're so aggressive. Something big and flashy. And I know just the old red and white daredevil has been such a good. I mean, forever. You look at the old timers. Whenever the pike bite is on, you'll see the old timers, whether they're casting from shore or in their fishing boats or whatever. What are you using? Red and white daredevil? What are you using? Red and white daredevil. Like they're all throwing the same thing and they're all catching fish.
5 of diamonds. Don't forget about that.
5 of diamonds.
Yeah, for sure.
5 of diamonds. Oh yeah, you get somebody who's radical cutting edge. They get 5 of diamonds instead of red and white.
Well, Joe, I'll tell you what.
So much for forward-facing sonar, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Are you a cutting edge angler? Oh yeah, I use 5 of diamonds.
It worked. It still works. It still works.
Remember the old lures? Remember the old lazy Ikes? Remember back when the floating rapple, the balsa wood rapple, the my favorite was either a 9S or a 11S, a 9 centimeter black and silver, or that 11 centimeter black and silver. Now, I mean, I hardly use those baits. I do once in a while actually spring fishing with a 3-way rig, but those famous lures. When's the last time you used them?
Well, growing up, when we had a cabin in Northwest Wisconsin, I would go out in a paddle boat, and I would cast those floating Raplas and right at sunset, and I would catch bass all the time, and they'd come up and explode at the top of the water. It was a lot of fun, but it's funny.
I can remember just twitching them too, Brett, where you cast them out and let all the ripples go away, and you just touched the line, just a little bit of ripple. And it would drive those bass crazy, wouldn't it?
Man, it's tough to beat, and so much fun when you're 12 or 13 years old and you're out there catching fish like that. It's a good time.
How about trolling for walleyes at night and putting down that balsa wood lure and getting that out away from the boat, long lining them? And I mean, wasn't that a staple on Mille Lacs and really anywhere you pulled cranks at night for walleyes? Things have changed. There's so many choices now with. I won't get into all the different brand names and rattles and neutral buoyancy, and there's so many choices now.
Well, Joe, you're right, and for the SJR 500 this year, maybe pulling some cranks on 3-ways, and
I'll tell you something.
Don't
tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
That's just between us. And one thing I thought that was interesting when we did that, you and I did that in your boat a couple of years ago, is and it makes a lot of sense, of course, but not the non-diving, or shallow diving crankbaits. When you're running them down there on weights anyway, then you don't have them digging into the bottom quite as much, and they're running right down there near the bottom, right where those fish are. So that obviously
remember
worked
how
pretty well for us.
we were digging, we were jigging, and those fish just weren't real active. Those fish were spread out. We weren't really on a big pot of them. So we said, screw it. Let's start covering some water, and let's just slow troll upstream some cranks. Let's cover some water. And boy, I tell you what, did things change in a hurry for us, didn't it?
Yeah. How did you do that year, Dan?
Great.
I don't think it mattered for our boat.
Did you notice on the picture who's holding the walleye from that year? I don't know why you bring that up like I didn't catch fish that year.
I didn't say you didn't catch fish. I just
again, I'm not sure.
Side-eye me like this.
When Brett asked me that question, I'm not sure. I thought I saw your mustache twitch. No,
Here's what I know. Is whatever I didn't have to go troll crankbaits. I actually got to have fun while I fished.
Well, we caught a lot more fish. I remember that, which was a lot more fun, I think.
I'm not a trolling guy.
Well,
I don't. It's not my thing.
I prefer to jig or fish myself, but I also prefer to catch fish. Yeah, so
one fish, it's like to each their own, man.
Danny, don't tell me you're gonna live and die by one presentation with walleyes. Come on.
Oh gosh, no! I've got like 8 spinning rods rigged up with like 8 different things, but they're not trolling.
8 different jigs.
Yep. Maybe a rip and wrap, maybe a lipless crank. But
well, it's all different now with forward-facing sonar. But I know it's funny when you do fish with Dan. Don't plan on being able to store any rods or anything in his boat because there's no room. Like all his rod storage.
I didn't buy the boat for you.
That's a good point. All right, Joe. SJR 500 coming up April 9th and 10th. We were actually able to pull up the forecast and look at a forecast for those days, and I'm sure it'll change between now and then. But they're talking about low 40s for our daytime highs. Maybe a chance for some precipitation, but I'm sure that'll change. Probably change 3 or 4 times by the time we get there.
Yeah, it sounds like a good forecast, and that's one of the reasons you run the tournament those dates. Is that normally that weather's pretty decent, and but I'll tell you what. You know what? We know there's a lot of walleyes in the river already. It should only get better. I think those dates are going to be really good for us.
Well, if people want to plan a trip, maybe the rainy this spring yet, or start thinking about the fishing opener, Joe, what should they do?
Check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world, is calling out to you. From the Northwest Angle to the South Shore and Rainy River, this is the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleye, sauger, perch, northern pike, and eelpout. The fishing on Lake of the Woods is like a world of its own. Experience the most amazing fishing through one of the many full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper fish house options. For more information, go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
This is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Bret Amundson. Thanks for tuning in on the network, by demand, sportingjournalradio.com. Or maybe you're watching this on YouTube or downloading it and playing it on wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Now we're going to talk to Aaron Ambur. He's the president of Nexus Outdoors. He's coming to us from Michigan. Aaron, how you doing?
Hey, good afternoon. Great. Thanks for the opportunity to chat with you guys today.
I grew up spending a lot of time in Wisconsin, obviously Minnesota and the Dakotas, but for whatever reason, I never made it over to Michigan much until the Aglow conference a couple of years back. We went to Gaylord, and man, driving through the UP and then coming down into that northern part of the LP, I guess, or whatever, the MIT, or whatever you call the lower part of Michigan there. That's beautiful country over there. Michigan. Now, you're from South Dakota, right? How long have you been in Michigan?
Yeah, I've been in Michigan for about 8 years right now. So I'm I guess, West River kid in South Dakota terms. You have your east side of the state and west side of the state. So I'm a farm and ranch kid from south central South Dakota, and grew up on whitetail hunting on the White River and the Missouri River bluffs, and cut my teeth catching walleye on the Missouri River system. And I lived there, I guess, for my formal life. Spent about 15 years in Nebraska when I was working at the world's foremost outfitter in the corporate office in Nebraska. And I've been at Nexus Outdoors since 2016. So, it's catching up on me quick.
I'm not going to lie. I'm sure Michigan is nice, and Nebraska, of course, has its benefits. But how can you leave South Dakota?
Yeah, that seems like a downgrade.
Come on.
Oh, it's tough, honestly. Especially when you grow up around your grandparents, and I have siblings and nieces and nephews there, and a great governor and a great diverse state. You think about the east side of the state to the west side of the state, and like I told someone earlier, it's always in your bones. The dirt's under your fingernails, and the culture's in your bones and your soul. So I miss that a lot. I do get back once in a while, but I'll tell you, being a couple hours from Lake Erie to walleye fishing isn't too bad either.
Yeah, I bet. And West River obviously is great, and there's one or two nice deer over there. But call me weird, but I love eastern South Dakota. And maybe that's...
You're weird.
Yeah, it's...
I had to take the opportunity.
For many reasons. And obviously I live in western Minnesota, so we're in very similar habitat here, the prairie. Some great fishing, obviously, in eastern South Dakota. I'm a waterfowl guy. I'm a pheasant guy, so I love the prairie. I love the grasses and the cattails and the sloughs and things like that. But, South Dakota. I don't want to make this a South Dakota show, but I love South Dakota, and but Michigan is nice too, and you do have the Great Lakes there, and obviously for a company, like Nexus Outdoors and Whitewater specifically, which I want to talk about, it's probably nice having the Great Lakes there just for product testing.
Yeah, well, when you think about the toughest conditions that to create product for, one thing I've learned about the Great Lakes, and it's a little bit different in Minnesota from the perspective, people are always out 12 months of the year here. And you think about with the inland lakes and the Great Lakes, people are bombing all the time. I mean, whether it's soft water or hard water, there's just I thought a lot of people were in the outdoors in the Dakotas, even Minnesota, but I can't believe how engaged the audience is here. So when you think about those conditions, one of our brands we'll talk about today is Whitewater Fishing, and you think about keeping people warm, comfortable in all sorts of conditions. When you think about the Great Lakes, it's just a great testing and proving ground for doing what you say and really making great garments to keep people comfortable and on the water longer.
Yeah, let's talk about Whitewater. I mean, the first image, Whitewater, maybe you're thinking of rapids or things like that, but obviously the gear is for all sorts of fishing situations. This was new, about a year ago?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago.
And what was the goal? Like, you just say we need to create some rain gear, fishing apparel. What was the goal behind Whitewater?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's an easy one for me to answer, because if you think about my days of how I grew up, and I've been around longer than I like to say right now. And I would use a farm analogy, is that we had a 1-ton truck on the farm, and it was great for certain things. But when you think about where the industry is going with fishing right now, and you think about all the classic brands I grew up with the Guidewares of the world, and these 1-ton trucks where you put a bib and a jacket on, and it's great because it's like it'll never fail. But one of the things that we really founded the brand on, when you think about brand attributes and those product attributes you want to deliver on, I really want to solve mobility. So when you think about the fishing environment we're in, picking up jigs off the floor, measuring fish, netting fish, jumping up over the gunnel, and just have that freedom of movement was a goal of our brand. So when you think about and look at our garments, one thing we've done really well at is incorporating stretch. So when you think about, forward-facing sonar and all the spot and stock that's happening from the bass world to now the walleye world, and that feeling you want to get where you want to be protected, but you don't want to feel like you can't do anything. And we believe that one of the things that had not been delivered to the industry is garments that not only kept you comfortable, warm, and dry, but they move with body. So that's one of the underpinnings of our brand is mobility. So I don't care if it's our 3-layer suit, our insulated suit coming out this fall, our outdoor pant that we make for fishing, all of those garments that we're producing has a great element of mobility in it to make sure people are comfortable longer. And you think about all the active movements, every time you lift your leg, every time you cast, you're creating friction if you don't have great movement. So great styling, great fit combined with stretch. I'm telling you, that's what our brand's all about right now.
It's nice to see improvements to clothing like that have more of an athletic fit to them, because if you wanted something that protected you from the wind, sometimes it was like wearing a sheet of plywood, or some of those suits that you wear, the winter suits specifically, they get so big you feel like the Michelin Man walking around out there. So finding something that fits a little bit better and allows you to move is nice. And these have waterproof pockets.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it's the little things, but we even waterproof the pockets, because how many times have you been out there grabbing your phone, have something in your pocket, and all of a sudden you get some boat spray or you get in a rainstorm and people say, well, I got wet. Well, it's because your pockets were open. Normally all waterproof jackets and bibs, they have waterproof zippers. That's a given. But how many people went to the protect yourself from yourself and actually waterproof the pockets themselves? Like literally you could put some minnows, if you don't want to run the back of your boat, and grab them out of your pocket. So
that's a great idea.
Those are little things. One of the things that we had an excellent weekend, when you think about the show and the viewership on this show, we had a couple of great Wisconsin natives that did so great on the Bassmaster Classic, a 2 and a 5 finish by Jay Shakurat and Adam Rasmussen. And I only bring that up because they're using our stuff in a very mobile environment. If you watch Jay all weekend, he actually had our insulated suit on. So it's Zone Prima Loft. Adam had our 3-layer on. And why I bring that up is that there's such a mobile, active environment, and yet Jay was in that thing all day casting. Think about the hundreds of times those guys cast and moved around their boat, and you got Adam, big old Adam, flipping around on the corner of the boat and grabbing fish out of the water. Just a great testament to the brand and its performance. And was an exciting weekend for not only those guys, but Team Wisconsin and certainly the Whitewater brand for sure.
Well, and some of those other Wisconsin guys that you work with, the Next Bite guys, I know I work with them too. I do the voiceover work for the TV show. And so Jay Flaw is a buddy of mine. And when we were on Devil's Lake in February, I was just Snapchatting back and forth with Jake. And he's like, because we saw Corey Sprengel over there. And he's like, oh yeah. Yeah, we're working on some new Whitewater stuff. So I don't know if that was top secret gear he was testing out over there, if that was just product shots, because I know Jake ended up going out there right after us in the middle of a snowstorm. He said it was an adventurous drive over there. But
They were doing some, not testing, but they were doing some photography work for a new Great Lakes Pro insulated suit, which will launch this fall. And Corey Sprengel, you think about Corey Sprengel, think about Chase and Gary Parsons. They've had experience in product development, knowing that their own experiences need to also be marketable. So the great thing that, Corey spent, he spent 64 days in our Great Lakes Pro insulated suit on the ice there in Devil's Lake. And, you think about how many seasons that is for most normal dudes. That's a long time. And to have it beat up and just functions good, and he had some really great experiences. So yeah, they were out there doing a big launch shoot for us, and again, that's just one product of a lot of product we have. But exciting to have a great team of guys that are technical, that know what they're doing, that know what they want and know what they expect, and yet know we got to sell product at the end of the day. So great partners, the Next Bite guys are Tommy Chemos, Matt Schiefelbein, the whole crew's just been great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way really to product test is give it to one of those guys that's going to be out there in the elements day in and day out for an entire season. You can learn a lot from guys like that. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about the Whitewater lineup, what other gear that you have. We'll also talk about Scent Lock and Blocker Outdoors and also Hardcore, because David and I have many Hardcore snow goose decoys in our trailers right now. Oh, look at that. There they are right there. So we're going to talk a little bit about those decoys, some deals that you have going on right now. So we'll continue that. If you're listening right now to the radio network, we got to go to the podcast. So thank you for tuning in on this station right here. Follow up and listen to the rest of this interview on our YouTube channel, Sporting Journal Radio, or wherever you download podcasts. So Spotify or iHeart, wherever. But thank you for listening to the radio show. And if you are watching this on YouTube, like it, share it, comment below. We'll have more with Aaron Ambur continuing here on the podcast in 1 second. All right. Also, if you're looking for a new truck, well, Toyota Tundra at Inver Grove Toyota is the choice that I made, and you should too. They got some really cool Tundras that they custom built just for the outdoorsmen in Minnesota. So go in there and talk to them about it. And right now, they've got some new finance programs out. They got 2.25%. So you want to talk about interest rates right now and how ridiculous they are everywhere? New Tundras, 2.25% for 48 months through Toyota Financial, or 4.25% for 60 months. Those are some great interest rates right now at Inver Grove Toyota. Those will only be in effect through April 1st, though. So if you're looking to get great interest rates on a new Tundra, talk to Inver Grove Toyota today, and we'll knock $250 off when you tell them that you want the Fish Hunt Forever deal. Find out more at Sporting Journal Radio. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what else you offer. So it's warmer weather, colder weather. You got a little bit of everything, some layered stuff too.
Yeah, we basically take you from next to skin all the way to a protective outerwear garment. So some of our new product for spring that we're pretty excited about is one of the products is called the Prevail pant. So that's a nylon spandex pant that has side zips on it, have really nice compartmentalization, has great stretch to it, has great durability. And that's one of our new spring products that we know through the feedback we've gotten from our anglers already, it's going to be a bomb. So not only, Brett, is this good for the intended end uses, which being out in the water, it's just a great pan. I was testing it all summer, doing food plots on the farm, UTV, and everything I need to do, just beating it up, giving it that really tough treatment, and it's just been a joy. So that's a really great piece. We also have came out with our Merino 250 hooded piece, which is a great merino story for anyone that understands the merino side, understands it has great thermal acclimation in your body, great antimicrobial resistance. So that's really been a new one. We're trying to really change the way people are fishing in hot weather. Most people think merino's just for cold. It actually works really great under warm conditions. So have some new spring product. And then obviously we're in the middle of outerwear season right now. So our Great Lakes Pro, what Adam Rasmussen was wearing this week on the Bassmaster Classic, that's a big deal for us right now. And then we also have a really nice soft shell jacket and bib. So think about soft shell. You get thermal, you get 100% windproof. But, enough about product. We think that through our experiences and our consumers, we've solved something that everyone wants to have solved, which is they want to be comfortable. They want to move around. They don't want to feel like they're in a straitjacket when they go out to do what they love to do, which is be on the water and catch more fish.
Well, I know Dan and I both have heard good things about it, so I haven't tried it yet, but it sounds like it's going well. which is great. And you mentioned microbial, and you start talking about scent control and things like that. For guys that smell like me, you got some,
David.
Yeah, you got some obviously some products for that. And with turkey season right around the corner, Blocker Outdoors has some stuff for the turkey hunter out there.
Yeah, so Blocker Outdoors, for those that maybe don't know about the brand, I think most people understand it and know it as Scent Blocker. So we acquired the brand, it's going on 4 years now, from Robinson over in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, which some of your viewers know. And since then, we've done a lot of exciting things with it and taken it and grown it. And one of the seasonal categories that we're in right now is turkey. And we have a great lineup of finisher turkey products, from your turkey vest to lightweight pants to midweight pants to jackets, and think about face masks. We've just done a heck of a job on making sure that we have really good, hardworking, I'd say great value to function price points. And, you think about the bottomlands pattern you're going by, or the greenleaf pattern. Just had a lot of success. We were down at the National Wildlife Turkey Federation show down in Nashville a couple months ago. Had a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and so turkey's alive and well right now, and it's certainly super exciting. And it won't be too long, and we'll be talking about deer hunting. And but now turkey's the season for sure.
Well, yeah, and it's a good thing turkeys can't smell, or else we'd probably never be able to kill any of them. But so I was curious about that, though. They were Scent Blocker, now it's Blocker Outdoors. Was that change? I mean, without getting into too many boardroom meeting discussions or anything, but I'd assume that change was made because you had Scent Lock.
Yeah,
something like that.
First thing, Blocker Outdoors, we believe was important because the brand actually is more than just Scent Blocker. When you think about the turkey stuff we were doing, you think about some of the predator things we were doing, some of the Western hunting things, we just believed that Blocker Outdoors was a better holding name for the diversity of pursuit that we had in the line. And to get away a little bit from the Scent Blocker only, but let's call it what it is. People still know it as Scent Blocker. And then, to your listeners, part of Nexus Outdoors is also Scent Lock. So Scent Lock is, a brand that I would say is rooted and lives in the whitetail category. Not that the brand can't find its way other places, but when we think about the ultimate whitetail killing brand, I would tell you it's Scent Lock. And the separation between Scent Lock, we have carbon absorption. We live off making sure that the whitetail hunter has all the insurances that he or she can have going in the woods, because I would never say we're an invisible cloak and that you put our gear on and you never have to hunt the wind. We say hunt the wind, and our promise is
in development.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that you eliminate as many as the variables as you can go into the woods. And the deer nose is still one of the most tough, things to solve. And but if it's 2 more steps, if it's a deer slipping through your scent stream, you need to do everything you can to eliminate the variables to be successful in the woods. And then, if you're not out there when the conditions are tough, and you can't kill that 10-2 buck when they get back off their feet and go look for a new doe, and you're too cold or you're not comfortable, I'm telling you, Scent Lock hits all of those attributes: warm, comfortable, easy to hunt in, protection of the deer's nose. And so most of our retailers that we have product in will carry both a Scent Blocker or a Blocker Outdoors brand, and then we'll carry Scent Lock. And it's really a good, better, best. Scent Blocker and Blocker Outdoors fits really in that better category, and then we look at Scent Lock being in that best category. So needless to say, we have a lot of different things going on in the outdoors, and we have 100 years of experience here. We are about building outdoor gear, and we're all either from Nebraska or South Dakota or the Midwest, and we all love to pursue these critters. So we also use what we create in small company, and we're trying to do great things to make sure the consumer is happy in their experiences.
I'll never forget. I mean, I'm a firm believer in hunting the wind, but there's inevitably you'll be out there when the wind changes. or something will happen. I mean, the nose on those animals are amazing, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. And I remember hunting a brand new property one time, and it was a property that was up for sale, and they wanted me to come out and hunt it and do a story on it and take some photos and try to help them sell the property or whatever. So it was a nice piece of land, and hung some stands before the season started and went out there. The first night I was like, all right, first season opener. I'm like, I'm just going to go sit out there. And the wind is supposed to change later tonight, but we'll just see how it goes. And then I'll just climb down before the wind changes. Oh yeah, there it is right there. And right as the wind was scheduled to change, this buck started coming in. And I watched him come all the way across this CRP. I was sitting in a bunch of oaks, and I watched him come across the CRP, and he came up into the trees. And all of a sudden I could feel the wind start to shift. And he was 40 yards from me. I was bow hunting. He was 40 yards from me. And there was one branch sticking out that he was behind. And all I needed him to do was take one more step, and I would have been able to, like, I was at full draw, ready to shoot, and I just needed one more step. And all of a sudden his head swung up, looked right at me up in the stand, and then turned around and started running. And, I don't know what I could have done differently other than just climb out of the stand an hour beforehand. But so that's just one of those things where sometimes the scent will betray you no matter what. But anything you can do to kind of help things out just a little bit in situations like that where you have some changing winds or some swirling winds or something like that, gear can always hopefully help you out in a situation like that.
Well, the difference, too, between blowing up and like, hey, something's funny is a way different deal, too. And,
right.
If you get that, like I snort wheezed a buck in on December 5th in Nebraska. It's been 5-6 years ago. And it was that typical situation, Bret, where he was right there and he took one more step and was down. When they come in on a calling situation, they're coming in downwind anymore, unless it's just crazy aggressive. They always circle in downwind. And same deal where had I not had the protection, he would have blown up. And he eased in, took that extra step, even though he's straight downwind of me, got to draw and release the arrow. And I'm telling you, it's a difference maker. So to your point, never can predict wind, but if you can minimize blowing critters up, in other words, when they hit it, they explode and they're like, I'm out of here, versus something's funny, that's a big difference maker just in itself.
I was so depressed when I watched that buck run away.
I am a firm believer in scent lock.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what you use?
Yep.
Nice.
I'm also a big fan of the ozone bags.
Yep.
Like the duffel bags if you're on a 4 or 5 day trip and you don't really have access to a washing machine, you're out, in a different state, you can just give it an ozone bath. And
what do you know about killing big bucks? David shot some nice
I get
deer.
lucky once in a while.
Yeah.
I use it in the back of my truck when I get out of a hunt. I'll throw in the ozone. I'm always a believer of keeping your tank full, which is making sure your carbon in your garment has full capacity. And not only, to Davey, your point on a long hunt, but like I recharge my stuff with ozone in between hunts. So on my way back, I'll charge it with ozone to make sure when you bring it out of your bag, it's always like it's in pristine condition. So Great technique that you suggested to the listenership.
David also believes in a lot of snow goose decoys.
Yes.
We was it last year when that sale? So hardcore had a sale on, and I think it was 35% off, right?
25 and then 10% off for first order
for the news, or if you sign up for the email or first order. Yeah. So we ended up getting 35% off. So I think I bought 15 dozen, which I thought it was, people will tell you the more snow goose decoys, the better. 15 dozen was a good amount for me because it fits in 2 seed bags. The 2 seed bags fit in my trailer nicely along with my other gear. So it's a good amount for me. David, how many did you buy?
35 dozen, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we combine our spreads, it's a big spread.
Yeah, it's a good number. It's a nice snow goose spread.
Can you get all those in your decoy or your trailer?
Yep.
In bags or just on top of bags too?
Mostly loose. They fit better loose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, you'd be able to just drive into a field with the truck and trailer.
It's snow goose hunting.
Throw them right out.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a good deal. And I think a couple of weeks ago there was 25% off again, and I could use another 15 dozen, I think. And then I got to buy a bigger trailer. But
yeah, we're down to 0 now. We're sold clean for snow geese for 2024.
I saw that. I was looking at the website today, and I saw that they're all sold out. So thank you for being sold out.
That just kept our company in business. Yeah. We'd declared bankruptcy if you had more.
Put more decoys on the Sporting Journal radio tab for sure.
I shouldn't say that around decoys. I love selling decoys. That's great.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I'll tell you what. Those hardcore snow goose, and I've used hardcore. I think when I moved to North Dakota, whatever it was, 20 years ago, and I started building a water spread up there for ducks. I think my first 12 decoys were hardcores, and I'm still using most of those 12. There's a couple that took some direct hits that are no longer in service, but I'm still using some of those decoys. And then those snow goose decoys, when they came out, this
one became a decoration.
Yeah, there's one right there. The one-piece snow goose decoy, full body, they look good. David throws them in his trailer. I throw them in the trailer with the seed bags. They get beat up, and they're all tail looped. And so far, those tail loops have held up pretty good. And that is something that you just can't beat, especially when you're talking about as many snow goose decoys as you are when you're out there setting all those decoys up in big spreads. So they've been great decoys,
and the stakes,
and they handle abuse very well.
Yeah. The stakes are nice too. Yeah.
This fall I was hunting, and we were limited on time for setting up, and had my dad and a couple of his buddies with. I'm like, all right, we get out here in the morning, let's start setting decoys, and they're grabbing a handful at a time and walking around. I'm like, we don't have time for that. And you just throw them. Just throw them. You're not going to break them. Just throw them as hard as you can and spread them out.
I remember that last year when we were down in South Dakota on our trip. I was like just below the hill. I can't remember. I think the side-by-side got stuck in the creek or something, and we were watching that. And I don't know who it was. I think you and a couple other guys were up on the hill, and we couldn't see you guys, but all of a sudden you start watching decoys just like fly over the hill. Like I've never seen decoys fly, like just overhand football tossing them Uncle Rico over the mountain to get across the field.
Spread them out.
Yep. It was awesome.
One of the things we really pride ourselves in, and it's one thing for you as an artist or a product developer to think your stuff's good. I'll tell you guys, just kind of listening to what you're laying down, just remind me of the customer testimonials I see that most all the snow goose reorders we get are from guys that own them today or influence others from a durability, rugged perspective. To your experiences that they are durable and rugged, and that's why I think people love that decoy, the true motion aspect, the pickup loops, but most importantly, the durability. They come back and like, hey, I bought 30 dozen, I want to add another 30 dozen, and I'm telling you, I've had everything in the field, all your competitors, Aaron, and they hold up the best. The paint's great on them. So it sounds like you've had similar experiences, which makes us feel really good. And the reason we're doing well in the snow goose category.
Yeah, I think they've been great. I mean, we've used some different decoy companies for snow geese, and the snow goose deal is, I hate using the word grind because I think that word gets overused. But the snow goose, whether you're guiding, which we did for a while, or whether you're just freelancing, the gear just takes a beating. And thankfully, we've been doing a lot of hunting up in Saskatchewan the last few years where it's been nice and dry and wheat fields, and we can drive out into the middle of it. But a lot of times you're dealing with, laying in the mud and cold weather, muddy weather, ice storms. So like South Dakota, I don't know how many times we've hunted with left spreads out during an ice storm or something like that, and you come up and you're just knocking a shell of ice off the decoy. But they've held up, and I think snow goose hunting is the worst hunting when it comes to you needing durability. Like it's the most brutal,
taxing
when it comes to gear. Yeah. So. Oh, they've been good, and they look good. Nothing pops like a white decoy out there too. So,
yeah.
Now I just want to go snow goose hunting. I'm just all excited to go lay in the mud and snow. Apparently,
It's the only one thing I haven't done in my life as it relates
man.
to waterfowl hunting.
Yeah, you got to do it. And like I'll tell everybody, the snow goose deal, I hate it. I love it the most, but I hate it the most. Like when they do it right, there's nothing else like it, but there's a lot of blue sky watching, waiting for that moment to happen. You know, the best moments in snow goose hunting may only happen, once or twice a season, a lot of times. So it's a lot of painful, long sits out in a
The best way to
field.
describe snow goose hunting for me, it came from a friend of mine, and the way he put it was, I'm only happy when I'm miserable.
Yeah.
And that pretty much describes snow goose hunting to a T.
You know what I tell my guys? So I got a couple of product development guys who are just super, just tough to deal with on the product side, meaning that they're so specific in what they like. I always say the waterfowl hunter is the most miserable person I've ever met in my life. I mean, how many times? They're always effing with something. I mean, if we're pit hunting or layout blind or, from panel blind, they're always moving something around. They're not happy. They're doing this call to that call, and they're just miserable people. However, on the positive side, I will say Matt and Dale, who live in Western Nebraska, you imagine that flyaway. I do miss that flyaway. I miss January and February snow, dark goose hunting, mallards. But what makes them really great is that there's so much attention to detail to real people that are actually waterfowl hunting on a daily basis, and the criticality that comes with the performance, the paint, the foul flex technology, from how much you can beat them up to, the positions, they'll say, well, that head's not quite right. Or, hey, we got 8-pound geese and we need a 10 to 12 pound, dark goose so we're continuing to evolve that assortment. I couldn't have two better guys that are hitting it hard. You've heard Angel Wing Outfitters as well. They're using our snow geese out there. You've seen some of their social coming across the social networks. So we're going to continue to build the brand, and all those attributes that you love on the snow goose side, believe it or not, are in the tucks and the dark side too.
Oh,
so
sure. I'm sure
we have a lot of opportunity to continue to revitalize the brand. We acquired it 2 years ago, and we got the best product team that will continue to build the assortment, and with a critical eye to my point of being miserable, they're doing it in the right way.
Well, I'll tell you, the waterfowl guys, especially the guides, when you're out there every single day, and what those guides are doing, which you don't always, a lot of people don't realize what's happening, is every bird that comes in, you're reading that bird's body language. So you're seeing what it's looking at. You're seeing where it's flaring, if it's flaring. You're seeing where it's finishing. You're seeing how it's responding to different notes and different calls. So, I mean, I'm constantly just trying to study what each flock and what each bird is doing. And sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I get it wrong. And sometimes even with snow geese, it doesn't matter. Like, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But if they don't do it, I'm out there moving decoys around, or I'm checking the hide, or I'm, if we're guiding, I'm like, which client had his face up, staring at the birds or pointing at the birds as they were coming in. I'm constantly trying to figure out what went wrong, what can we do differently, what they didn't like. And sometimes it's just the bird being, having the brain about this big. But constantly, so when you describe the waterfowler, that's exactly what's happening out there. The guys are out there trying to figure out what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So
it's a never-ending pursuit, as you guys know. I mean, at least in this game, the older you get, you hope you know a little bit more. But it's all about, to your point, interpreting the language of how they're reacting to you and making those those in-game decisions. And I guess that's what makes them great. Those that do it a lot and are successful. It's anyone can get lucky, but predictably doing it day in and day out, especially you guys know those birds get wised up. I mean, you're changing strategies throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. And they seem to be getting smarter, the ones, especially those snow goose. Those older snow geese, some of them are 30 years old, and when they get shot at for 9 months out of the year, think about that. For 75% of its life, that 30-year-old goose has gotten shot at. for 75% of its life.
It's like living in Chicago.
Yeah. Hey-o. That's hilarious. So they've
How
seen
about the Bears?
They've seen a lot of decoy spreads on the way up and on the way down. But all right, Aaron, right now, looks like ScentLock has got an Easter sale going on, 30% off. And you probably have some other deals throughout the year, of course, with the other brands. Anything else you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I'll tell you what. Certainly walk through that door this weekend. We take a couple of strike points in the year and really try to give our consumers a good deal. So this Easter deal we got going on right now started today and runs through the weekend. That's on that's on Whitewater Fishing, ScentLock, and Blocker Outdoors as well. I think we're running something different on the hardcore side. So I guess, my wrap up, from today, Brett, thanks for having me on your show, is that, if you're out there doing your trade, you either love waterfowl or you love whitetail hunting, or, Blocker Outdoors is your deal because you like the turkey, or seasonally specific, you're in the fishing market right now and you want to be comfortable, you want to be warm, you want to do your thing and have your garments be part of the story versus the garments that distract from what you're really trying to do and enjoy. I would just tell you we're a bunch of people of passion, a lot of experience in this world. We work hard, we understand dollars are short, and we want to be part of your experience. So we're just humbled that if any of your listeners want to take our product and go do their thing and ask one of our brands to be part of their household, would just be super appreciative to give us a crack and trust what we're doing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And it, of course, the economy is an interesting time right now with us here in America. So, but you're putting out good products, people are going to find a way to buy them. So, Aaron Ambur, Nexus Outdoors, appreciate the time. Good luck with everything this year, and thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.